Okay, I'm recording now. Go ahead. Now, how do you know the difference? Why do you know that Dave is going to print and not Terrence?
Well, from prior some prior knowledge to this. Now, this is where I was getting confused a few years, like 3 years ago, when I was trying to understand that exact same question you're asking me. I know it will run Dave, but that's where I'm getting confused as to why does it run Dave when we declare a person as being Terrence.
Mm-hmm. All right. Alice, how about you? Do you understand why? Alice is your first name, right, Ying?
Oh, Yang is the first name.
Oh, Ying. Okay.
It's okay. I have a name situation like you too. Uh, I mean, I was thinking also Dave because that's the last known information given in the value.
hmm Okay. Now let's think of the rule. And this is why you want to understand the rule of the language. Variable in JavaScript. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. The reason why we say that is because you don't assign a type to an variable. You can give a variable whatever value you want to give it. It can be a string, it can be a number, it can be a Boolean. In a strongly typed language or a statically typed language like Java, you set the data type that it only takes that data type only. So you can't change it to a different data type or you're going to get an error, but not in JavaScript. And this is where it gets confusing for people. The reason why Dave is going to print and not Terrence is because I changed the value. And that's the last thing that it saw. So if I run it, it's Dave. If I comment out Dave and I run now, it's Terrence.
Oh, okay. So it's the last known value that variable is assigned.
Yep. And so now if I do this, what happens if I did this? The first two were strings, right? What's going to print now?
8 should print.
Right, because it's the last one, right? Because remember, and this is what you want to get your bearings around in the DOM or in this compiler, how this program is running, is reading from top to bottom. The first thing it sees is the variable let person, which is being declared, and it was initialized at Terrence. But then when it goes to line 23, it realized, oh, wait a minute, you changed it to Dave. Okay, now it's Dave. But then it goes down to line 24 and see person again. Oh, wait a minute. You changed it again. It's 8. And so when it gets down to that console log to print it, it's actually going through each one of them. And I'm going to show you in a minute. So it's 8. So let's do this. Console.log is your friend in the beginning. So let me run it. They're still there. The program it never disappeared. All it did was change it. That makes sense? Anybody got a question? Because y'all silent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense now. At first it didn't, but now that you've explained it, because I did struggle with this big time, man, and now it makes sense. It's the last known variable that is declared. But then once you do the console.log and you pass person, then it's going to run every value that person is being declared.
And you're on the right track. But I want to make sure you truly understand this, because this can hem you up. This is why it's so important to see how this works. Console.log is, do y'all remember the rule? Let me see if you remember the rule. What is console.log? Anybody know what it is? What is console.log?
It's the method.
Okay. I'm going to put this in so we can see this. So what is counsel? And you called it counsel is counsel dialogue is a method. You're using one of the words, I get it, but break it down a little bit more because it's a little bit more than a method.
Yeah, it's the function.
Methods and functions are similar, but in this case, it is a method. But you want to understand, we said something about primitive data types. Primitive data types, if we read up here, what does it say?
They're immutable and they do not have methods or properties. Okay.
And so now here's a rule. I want you to remember this. You see that little dot right there? This is going to help you out remember this. So if you're taking notes or if you come back and watch this video, console.log, if you see that dot and anywhere in programming, this dot right there, and let me do this. Let me do this because we're gonna see if they'll let me do it here. Where you at? Now I guess it ain't gonna let me do it. Oh yes, it is. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna do some annotations right here. This dot right here. Up. Where you at? What's going on? Okay, here we go. I want to draw. Okay, right here. That dot right there. Oh, I got to change my pen because it's not letting me. That's not what I want. I want to do this. All right, so that dot right there. And forgive my trying to write this using this mouse. So that dot right there is what we call an access modifier. Anything to the left of that dot is what we call an object. So everything to the left of the dot is an object. Everything to the right of that dot is either going to be a method or a property. All right, so I'm just gonna put this here because I want everybody to see this who watches this video later. All right, so it's either going to be a method or a property. Now, here's some information I want you to remember. Everything in JavaScript is an object except primitive data types. So those 7 primitive data types are not objects. Why? Because primitive data types don't have methods or properties. Every time you see that dot, it's called an access modifier. Everything to the left of the dot is an object because everything in JavaScript is an object. Arrays are objects are objects. Everything is an object except a primitive data type. And so if everything is an object, it doesn't matter what this variable. So this person right here, if I put a dot behind it, and then I put the word, let me see, if I put the word, if I put a dot behind it, and then let me see. Okay, so if I put a dot behind it, let me get rid of this annotation because I don't want to keep. So I put it back at the dot. All right, put it back at the cursor. So if I put a dot behind this person right here, so if I come down here and I do this like this, and then I do dot length, I know that I'm dealing with an object because it's either it's going to have a property or it's going to have a method following it. That's how you have to think like the compiler. Whenever you see that dot, think object. If it has a parenthesis behind the word, it's a method. If it doesn't have a parenthesis behind the word like length, it's a property. And that's going to make more sense when we get into objects. But know that console.log is an object with a method. And that method right here is called log. Council has a lot of information in it. This dot right here allows log, the method, to get access to whatever council has. And we kind of hit on this a little bit when we talk about read line sync, if you read chapter 4. But I want you to understand that. Remember, a dot, you see that dot, everything to the left is an object. Anything to the right is either a property or a method. And remember, primitive data types do not have properties or methods. And understand, so get that around your head. So I want y'all to repeat, what did I just say?
Primitive data types don't have properties or methods.
But everything in JavaScript is
object oriented.
Or just say object. Everything is an object. So whenever y'all hear me say everything in JavaScript is an object, except, what are you going to say?
Primitive data types.
There you go. And see what we've just done here. We have this person. Technically, this is an object now because it has something stored in it. Now, let me ask y'all this question. What is a variable? What is the variable's job? It has one job to do. And what is a variable's job? To do what?
Hold a value.
To hold a value. It's a container. That's all it is. So if I break it down to its most simplest form, it is a container. So let's give you an example, because let's use a real world example to help you remember this, because it gets kind of muddy when we start getting into loops and all that stuff. People forget what a variable is. But a variable is a container. So think of it like this. You ordered you a pair of shoes. You got these shoes coming, a special pair of shoes. And so you're going to put them in its own box. You got this nice little box that you're going to put these shoes in. Well, when I declare a variable, that box, I'm going to write special shoes. I'm going to put a nice little plaque on it. It's called special shoes. But when I just declare it, it's just an empty box. The flaps are open and everything. It's letting me know that it's ready to receive the value. Now, when I say declare and initialize, that box, my shoes just came, my nice shoes, these special shoes came. And when they came, I put them inside this special box that I made just for them. So this right here is called an assignment operator, that equal sign. I want you to get in the habit of calling it that. The reason for that, because in mathematics, we use the equal sign to give equals the value. It brings the values together to equal, but not in programming. That is called an assignment operator. If we're going to do equal, it's going to be two equals. And in JavaScript, it's two equals. That's a soft equality. But if I want strict equality, it's going to be three equals. Now, this is not legal syntax because that's not what the compiler wants to see when you do that. You only do that when you're comparing something in a conditional, and we'll talk about that later. But that assignment operator is you. Because what you're doing is you're taking the value, which is your shoe, and you're putting it inside this container that you made for it. And then you close it up. Now, I know it's something in there. Now it's been declared and initialized. I know it's something in there because I closed it up. How do I know it's something in there? Because I put it in there. And so now I don't have to go and get the shoes anymore. All I got to do is make a reference to it. All I got to do is call the name that I put on it because I know that those special shoes are in there. Like right here. Name one has a value, a string value. It could be an 8, like we learned down here. We got a Terrence, Dave, and the number 8. And I can go ahead and I know what's in it. All I got to do is reference it. Now, here's another trick right here. So let me do this. I want to know what the value, what's the data type. So how do I find the data type of a variable? What's stored in it? What property can I use? Or really it's actually called a function, but what can I use right here to find out what data type what's stored inside of person? Did y'all go over that yet? I don't know if it's in chapter 4. I think it is, but I'm gonna tell you type of. If I put type of, and if I spell it right, still spelled it wrong. That's that dyslexia. And so here, if I put type of in front of each one of these, it's going to tell me the type of each one of these values. So when I run it, it lets me know Terrence, a string. Let me do it this. I forgot. Let me put per so you can see the difference. So you can see, I forgot. I just put console in all of those. So, all right. So if I run it now, all right. So it says Terrence is a string. Dave is a string. 8 is a number. And we know that person has been changed, but it didn't disappear. It was stored in memory somewhere. Console.log, all it did was it gives me the last thing that the compiler saw. So if I get rid of the console.logs and all of these right here, so if I get rid of that console.log and I get rid of that console.log, all console.log is doing is printing to the console. This is the console down here. And what log is doing is taking whatever argument, because this is an argument right here that I'm passing in. It's an argument. I'm passing into that log. And what it did was it knows how to read what's in it, and it passes it to the console because that dot gives it access to the console. This is the console right here. So what that log is doing is passing that information on over. And so now it's being revealed because a log is being revealed to the console. So when you hear words like print, when you hear words like display, we want you to display this. Right now, you should be thinking console.log. I need to console.log this. Those are the clues whenever we tell you to do something. So are y'all with me still?
Yeah, real quick. So type of identifies the data type.
It tells you the data type.
Okay.
And I believe that was inside this particular chapter. Which I guess I deleted it. Let me see. Did I move it down here? Okay, it's one of these. Let me find it. Okay, here we go. Let me move this down. As a matter of fact, I'm going to split it for us, so we can see both. So that's right there, the data type. And so here, I believe it even tells you right here, see, type of, and it tells you what type of is. It says, if you're not sure what the data type of value falls into, proceed the value with type of. And let me see, does it, okay, notice that console.log type of prints a string, which we did that. Let me see if, does it tell you what it is? It gives you the definition of type, what type of is. It's somewhere in here. But you notice that that information is in chapter 4. And one of the things we need to understand, we have to, right now, we're just introducing strings and numbers. And the reason why I'm going back over this, because we're reviewing. I need to make sure you understand what we're doing, because we're not on a time frame here. Like Ying, she was in the, just like you, Will, because y'all both were in launch code. And a lot of the times it moves so fast that you don't it's hard to remember everything. You don't take the time to really savor. So we understand that when you have a good meal, you don't want to rush through it, do you? You kind of want to take your time and savor it, right?
Absolutely.
Well, this is the same way with programming. You can move. We want to keep you moving forward in JavaScript and launch code, but the reason why it's a struggle a lot of times for people, because it's like data in, data out. It's coming in and it's going right out the other. It's going in and going out. It don't stay. And what you want to do is get it to stick. And this is why a review is so important, because we want it to stick and we want it to get an understanding. Because when you read through these chapters, you're going to gloss over a lot of information and you're only going to retain only maybe 10% of it. So that means you got to keep going over it. And a person like myself, I'm going to point out things that's important to remember. Like, for instance, an expression. Why is this important? Because everything to the right of this assignment operator, we consider that also an expression. So that'll kind of throw you off too, because it's like, okay, what's an expression? Well, a value is the string right here. I passed in the value, but an expression is a little bit more data type, you know? And so it says here, notice in the note, notice that console.log type of hello world prints out string to the console. The type of keyword is not printed to the console because the statement type of hello world is an expression. Briefly, expressions are code segments that are reduced to a value. You see the difference there? Very subtle though. Smaller nuance. One thing is a value. Expressions is more of a segment. It's maybe like 2 plus 2. If I go in here and I put, because I can do this, 8 plus, let me see, 8 plus 8. I can do 8 plus 8. And then I can console log person, and then I could type of person. So let me ask you a question. What is the output going to be when I hit the run button right now?
I would say 88.
And why do you say 88?
I believe, well, the reason I say it is because that plus sign is concatenating things.
It does mean concatenation, but it has two duties here. It's still a plus sign when you have numbers. When you have strings, it's going to concatenate, right?
When you have strings, that's
right.
Yeah.
So if I did this, so let's first run it. It added the two numbers together for me, right? When I console.log a number. But let me do this. Check this out. What is it going to do now? What's the output going to be now?
Is it going to be number like 8 plus string?
It's not going to say the word. Well, the first one is just going to give me what the output is. This one is going to tell me what kind of data type it is. So you said it right. A plus sign is a concatenation when there's a string involved.
Right.
So if I run this is going to print out 88.
88, okay.
Because now, although that's a number, and you notice right here, the data type is a string, because the compiler saw string in the expression. This is an expression right here, because I got multiple things going on here. That's an expression, but it's still a value, because what did it do? It gave me the value 88. So I want to make sure you understand what express. So when you come across somebody tells you an expression, you want to understand, this is what an expression is. It's still a value, but that's the output I'm getting. The output is the value. Before I get the output, it's the expression. Make sense? Ask questions, and all thy getting, get an understanding.
No, that makes sense. Because okay, without the what are the quotes, quotation marks? then 8 is considered a variable.
It's considered a variable.
So it did math. But then once you add the string, then it does the concatenation. Okay, I get it.
All right, but I got another trick because we talk about this also in chapter 4. If I do this, I can convert this. Do you remember what you can do to convert that? I can make this into a number by using the number function. Now pay attention to that syntax. Capital N with the parentheses, because this is a function now, not a method. It's a function because it's standing alone. Functions stand alone. Methods, they have to be connected to an object. That's where that dot comes in at. So remember that, the difference. So now we're going to get 3 console logs, 3 things they're going to print. So the first one is going to print the number 88. What do you think the second one is going to print? What is the output?
Line 32, right?
Yep, but it's going to be the output. What is that console log going to print on line 32? To the console.
88. 88.
You think it's going to do 88?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Why? Why do you think it's going to print 88?
Well, it concatenates that the person is 8 plus 8, which was 88.
Okay. But do you remember what the number function does?
It converts it to it's converting it to a number, right?
Uh-huh. So do you think this is going to be converted to a number?
Push enter so we can see.
All right, we're going to run it. Now, also, too, line 39, what data type is going to give me? Is it going to give me a string or is it going to give me a number? Because remember, it's reading from top to bottom. It's actually going through each one of these console dialogue. So what is it going to give me? Think about it for a second. Is it going to give me still a string because it's reading this person right here? Or is it going to read this conversion? So let's run it so we can see. So it did give you 88. It converted that 8 to 8. So, but it's still a number though, right? It's still a number right there, right? But the reason why it's still printing me a string is because it's reading this one right here. It's actually reading that actual variable. So it still sees that variable, but then I have this number right here. The only way I can convert that to a number is that I do this right here. So let me show you. So I will have to do this. And then I have to put the type of in front of it. Now we're going to see something here. Let me see what it does here. Let's see if it gives me what I think it's going to give me, or maybe it won't. We're about to find out. So let me run it. If it's going to tell me that this 88 is going to be a number, it does. So it lets me know this person that's storing this expression 8 plus 8 the string. And then when I do console log type of person, you can see that the order is still reading just this variable here. When I converted that person to a number, it converted it for me. But if I want to see type of, I have to do the type of to the function number. I can't just do the type of to the person because this did not change. That still stayed the same thing. So do y'all see what's going on here? Are you seeing how understanding why it's important to understand the structure of how this stuff works? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm still, processing it. I mean, I get it. I'm just looking at, line 30. And then, okay, I get the outcome of
Let me separate it for you.
line 30 and then running line 32. And then 33.
Kind of confusing to you?
That one made it added to 16, right?
No, it still made it 88.
But, here we go. We're going to go to this. It's in 4.2.
Yeah.
It breaks it down for you right here on what it's doing.
Okay.
So that's why I don't want to rush through. I want us to take our time through understanding this stuff, because the more you understand this, of course you want to practice. You got to practice. The more you practice, the more you improve. That's our thing. The more we practice, the more we improve. But we want to understand what it's doing, because as we go forward, we want to be able to come back to this and recite it. Boom, boom, boom. So right now, what you've just learned, and although it seems it's one of those things that some people might think is elementary. Oh man, that's high level, high level. Let me ask y'all this and explain to me. If you hear someone say high level and low level, what does that mean in programming? If I say high level, I wanted to say high level, and it's really said high level language and low level language. What does that mean? Because you're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah, I remember hearing those terms before when I was in launch code. I guess high level, if I can recall, is more complex. Well, not, I don't know.
You want to take a stab at it again?
I mean, I think high level is just a very generic perspective, where low level is like getting in the weeds, you know?
And that's how we look at it from our point of view as a human, because normally if you hear that, it's what you're thinking, right? But in computer programming, when you hear high level, and really it means high level language and low level language, all high level languages mean is that it's human readable. That is the simplest form. We can read this. We speak English, we read, we write English. This is readable to us. High level is, but not to a machine. To machine is low level. That means the compiler has to convert all of this to bytecode in order for the machine to read it. That's why it's so important that you got to be very detailed on how you write your code. You got to understand what this stuff means so you can write it correctly, because the computer, your machine can't read what we're looking at. They can't read that. It can't read it. It has to be converted to bytecode. But you got to be really trained to understand bytecode, because all it is zeros and ones when you're dealing with bytecode. And I'll break down binary later on. And I kind of touched it on it a little bit. As a matter of fact, if you go and look at on my channel and you look at chapter 4, the videos I did on chapter 5, I did a video on the first section of chapter 5, where I kind of broke down the introduction to binary. But here, this is just being human readable. I used to get so confused with that when I was working as a developer early on in my career, because people would say high level, and low level. I didn't know what they meant. When I thought about high level, I thought about like a CEO in a company. The CEO is the high level. The worker is the low level, right? A low level worker. That's how my mind thought. But in computer programming, all it means is, when we say high level, is human readable. That's the simplest way to remember it. That's what it is. It's just human readable. And when we say low level in computer science or computers, we're talking about machine readable. So remember that, okay? All right, y'all. I'm going to stop it now because I have an appointment I got to get to. But anybody have any questions? I did record when I started recording this, so I will put this recording back out so y'all can follow it. But does this right here, just this little bit of information, keep going over chapter 4 until you get it. We ain't in no hurry. We ain't rushing. Oh, we got to have this done in 2 weeks. We need to be on chapter 10. No, we could take our time. It's on you. If you want to go further, ask me questions on something you don't know. Like if you are reading chapter 5 and chapter 6 and you need some questions answered, ask me and I'll break it down to you. So I'm not going to slow you up from going forward. But if we need to spend a little extra time on understanding chapter 4, let's spend some time on it. It's no big. We're not in a rush.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm just gonna go back and review chapter 4 personally, just for some clarification. But this does help because this is a lot of where I struggled initially about 3 years ago when I attended Lunch Code.
Yeah. All right then. And like I said, it's a process. Just remember, it's a process. And you guys can do it. All of y'all can do it. It's just my job here is to help navigate you through it. And ask me questions. I don't say I know everything because I don't know everything about this. I'm still learning a lot. But let's put it in perspective. I know more than you. That's how I know more than you. That's how you got to be. That's how you got to think of it. And you're going to do the same thing. And don't forget, tell other people about it. I'll teach them. They can be a part of our program. Let's help build a community. Let's get as many people involved with it that want to learn this stuff. It's free. I ain't charging them nothing. I just want people to learn it, and we can use the curriculum. So tell as many people as you know. If you say, hey, y'all need to get on this. If you want to learn this, check out Terrence. He takes his time breaking it down to you.
Most definitely will be passing it along.
Yep. Tell everybody. Tell all your friends, families, and tell your enemies because they might become your friend later.
Yeah. I'm excited. Thank you for that. And I think I'll also review chapter 4. I mean, we went through it so fast. You kind of get the syntax, like this is how you're supposed to write something. So you just learn how to write it, but you don't understand what you're doing. And that's where I think I got stuck is like when you ask questions, what does this mean? Why is it important to put it this way? I don't know. I just know this is how you're supposed to do it. And you kind of just follow the rules, right? And I don't want to just do that. So yeah, I appreciate taking the time to go through this. I'll read chapter 4 again too.
That's right. Hey, I still read chapter 4. Trust me, y'all don't understand. I constantly keep going over this stuff. Pretty soon, one day, I'm gonna be able to recite this verbatim because I read it so much. But also add other stuff to it. Like I said, go over here to MDN, go and Google like primitive data types. Go there. Like I said, go here, open it up in MDM, read it. It tells you what it is. It breaks it down a little bit more for you. Yes, trust me, take the time and do extra research. I'm going to show you how to understand every aspect of it. Go over here. You can go over here to the, let me make this bigger. You can go over here and let's search. We'll search, what is a variable? This is stuff we just talked about, right? Storing information, you need variables. This stuff is updated. This is a community of people at MDM. They keep these documentation updated. So this is a good reference. Also, too, they get it all from ECMAScript. That's the holy grail because they are the consortium. They are the one who writes the rules for JavaScript. It's actually called ECMAScript. JavaScript is just what we call the street name because JavaScript is, I think it actually Java owns the name because they got JavaScript from Java, but they're two totally different languages. Yeah, go and read this. This little stuff right here is very helpful because you'll read this and you'll be like, oh. But when you're at launch code, you're moving so fast, you don't have the time to do this.
Right.
So go over this. See, here's my example right here. The box. There you go. There you go. Read this stuff. These are just your tools for your toolbox.
Will do, most definitely.
All right, y'all. And I'm gonna stop sharing that, and then let me go ahead and stop this